This video is sponsored by Bespoke Post. In the early 1970s, Sidney Shachnow commanded an elite unit of covert operators in Berlin to prevent the outbreak of World War III against the Soviet Union. The Major General was born in Lithuania and survived both the communist regime of the Soviet Union and the Nazi sovereignty during World War II. After escaping from a concentration camp with his family, he reached American-occupied Nuremberg and eventually fled to the United States when he was only 16. Shachnow then joined the army and fought in the Vietnam War as a Special Forces operator. It was after serving 2 tours there that he would risk his life to prevent another devastating global catastrophe. Thank you to Bespoke Post for sponsoring Dark Docs. Bespoke Post is a monthly membership club delivering awesome boxes of premium goods from under-the-radar brands, and it's free to join. Every month, Bespoke Post introduces its members to cool new products: outdoor gear, barware, home and kitchen goods, clothing, and more, all based on a preference quiz they fill out. The box lineup changes each month. This month, we at Dark Docs received the Weekender bag that comfortably fits and protects everything we need for a short trip in a stylish, easy-to-carry bag. We also received Terra outdoor gear with an endlessly functional knife, a refreshing detox scrub bar, and an Audubon bird call. And perhaps our favorite item, the cocktail smoking and infusion kit we use to make the perfect after-work cocktail. The best part is you get to preview your box before it's shipped. You'll get a box assigned to you, and before it ships out, you'll have a preview of what comes inside to decide if you want to keep it, swap it for a different box, or skip the month entirely at no charge. You only pay for what you want. To get 20% off your first box, click the link in the description and enter the promo code DARKDOCS20 at checkout, or go to bspk.me/DarkDocs20. A war against the Jews. During Adolf Hitler's rise to power in the late 1920s, anti-Judaism took over the streets of Germany. Many World War I veterans from the Kaiser's army believed that Germany had lost the conflict because the Jews failed to economically support the country, and as World War II approached, anti-Semitic views had spread all over the population. Jews began to be treated harshly, and many were expelled from their homes and relocated to ghettos or concentration camps. Some of them fled to Eastern European countries, only to find themselves under the cruel regime of the Soviet Union. Others were sent to forced labor camps, along with Protestant and Catholic political prisoners, where they starved to death under inhumane conditions. The situation only got worse as the United Kingdom and France declared war on Germany and World War II began. In the summer of 1941, the Third Reich forces launched Operation Barbarossa to take down the Soviet Union, and the Germans were initially greeted as liberators by former communist countries. However, as guerrillas and partisans infiltrated the civilian population and many Jews failed to cooperate with the new government, the German authorities turned violent, and thousands of Jews from the occupied countries were relocated to forced labor camps. Sidney Shachnow and his family were among them. A survivor. Sidney was born in Kaunas, Lithuania in November of 1934. His country was occupied by the Soviet Union in 1940 and 1941, and the Soviets were brutal and unrelenting in their treatment of the population. As the Blitzkrieg forces advanced towards Eastern Europe and Germany took control of Lithuania, they were greeted as saviors. When Sidney was 7, his family and many other Jews were hastily relocated to the Kovno ghetto with almost 20,000 people. For almost 3 years, Sid was forced to work under extremely harsh conditions and was given little to no food. But as many acquaintances began to lose their battle against starvation, Sid's family decided to escape. During their first attempt, Sid's father fled to join Russian partisans. Sid would then escape with the help of his Uncle Willie by hiding under his long coat and moving in tandem with him. When his uncle gave him the signal, Sid ran across the ghetto gates, and he and his brother hid in a storage room for days before a Catholic family gave them shelter. After reuniting with their parents by mid-1944, the Shachnow family fled from Lithuania. Thus began a 2,000-mile journey that took them 6 months on foot. They crossed Lithuania, Poland, Hungary, Austria, and Czechoslovakia to get to American-occupied Nuremberg. From 1945 to 1950, Sid resorted to black market contraband to support his family. He also learned German, a skill that would come in handy in the future. The Green Berets. In 1950, the Shachnow family obtained a visa and traveled to Salem, Massachusetts in the United States. His parents struggled to adapt to American culture, but Sid made the most out of it. At age 16, he attended school for the first time, where he worked to support his family in the afternoons. Sid struggled with English, but was able to finish high school in 1955. He also fell in love with his school sweetheart, Arlene Armstrong, a Roman Catholic. He then joined the U.S. Army as an infantryman. Although he had no clear understanding of what he wanted to do with his life, Sid decided that the military offered him more than he could achieve by himself. He would later say, quote, "I had many opportunities in the military, and when opportunity knocks, you get up off your ass and open the door." Sid was quickly accepted among his peers and was able to save enough money to marry Arlene. His parents vehemently opposed the union, to which he once told them, quote, "Join the new world. America, the melting pot. Have you even taken a step into this world? You both live in the past." Sid steadily climbed through the ranks in the Army. From private, he moved to Sergeant First Class of the 4th Armored Division in late 1960. He then became a U.S. citizen and earned a commission as an Army infantry officer. In 1962, the Army began recruiting selected men for Green Berets training. The now company commander applied and was accepted for the rank of captain. During an interview with Henry Levy from the Jewish Post, Sid would recall his training days, quote, "It was hard before you start. It's like climbing a mountain. When you're at the bottom, it's difficult. When you're on the top, looking down, it's not too bad." As Cold War tensions rose with the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Bay of Pigs invasion, and the escalation of the conflict in Vietnam, the United States military readied for war. The Green Berets, which Sid among them, would then become the founding pillars of the U.S. Special Forces. Fighting in Vietnam. Sidney was given command of Detachment A-121 of the Special Forces when the American military involvement in Vietnam began in 1965. The unit was sent to An Long along the Mekong River in Vietnam's border with Cambodia. A-121 operated in small numbers behind enemy lines and led sabotage, reconnaissance, and search and rescue missions, among other daring endeavors. During his first tour, Sidney was shot in a leg and an arm after an encounter with Viet Cong troops in the depths of the jungle. Still, that did not stop him from fighting. He applied a tourniquet to his wounds and kept firing at the enemy, leading his men away from the heat of the battle. While healing from his combat wounds, Sidney was diagnosed with typhoid fever, tuberculosis, and other common illnesses from Vietnam. He was then awarded his first Silver Star and Purple Heart. After recovering, Sidney returned to the U.S. to earn his bachelor's degree from the University of Nebraska. He then attained the rank of major and returned to Indochina for a second tour. The officer was now assigned to the legendary 101st Airborne Division and participated in many encounters with the paratroopers. He would eventually earn several more medals and a second Silver Star for his bravery on the battlefield. But as the U.S. began its withdrawal from Vietnam amidst Cold War tensions in the early 1970s, Sidney was tasked with a peculiar challenge: to form an elite group of Green Berets for a top-secret mission in Berlin. Preparing for World War III. Sidney was sent to Germany as commander of Detachment A Berlin Brigade, a covert unit that stood on high alert for 24 hours a day in case the Soviets decided to invade and ignite World War III. At first, Detachment A was composed of 40 men whose rank and identity were classified. Their selection had been a thorough process. They all needed to speak several languages, know their way around Berlin, and be able to blend in with the civilian population. They were also tasked with training civilians in guerrilla-style combat, while NATO forces arrived to support them. The operators were divided in teams and had strong fighting skills. They could also conduct sabotage missions and search and destroy operations for high-value targets. As a Holocaust survivor, now General Shachnow was greeted in Berlin with an ominous aura. He was given main quarters that used to belong to Nazi official Hermann Göring and Finance Minister Fritz Reinhardt. Shachnow would tell reporter Henry Levy that, quote, "At a dinner with my Russian counterpart and senior KGB officers, they were laughing. When I asked them why, they replied, 'Here you are, a Jew. You were liberated by us, the Russians. Now you are defending the Germans who had incarcerated you and committed atrocities against your people, while you are getting ready to fight us, your new enemy.'" The Green Berets, under the command of General Shachnow, knew the operation could turn into a suicide mission any minute, as they could be captured by the communists and be tortured, or worse, if they failed to cooperate. Still, they greeted and socialized with the enemy on a daily basis. Freedom. For almost a decade, the Berlin Brigade remained on high alert and ready for combat, but they never fired a shot and kept the city safe until the Berlin Wall came down in 1989. Sidney would eventually become Major General and receive several awards and degrees from military and civilian corporations. He then retired at the age of 60 after almost 40 years of active duty and published his autobiography entitled Hope and Honor in 2004. The Berlin operation would remain classified for decades until a ceremony was held outside the headquarters of the Special Operations Command in 2014. This would be the unit's first public appearance. Major General Shachnow would later say that the Berlin Brigade was, quote, a small covert unit staffed with incredibly talented people willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. They served on the front lines of the Cold War and never fired a shot in anger. No force of its size in history has contributed more to peace, stability, and freedom. Thank you for watching. Let us know your thoughts on Major General Shachnow's achievements in the comments below. And if you enjoyed our video, feel free to like it and subscribe to our Dark Documentaries channels for more interesting historical content.